Some new concerns come to light about a top NFL draft prospect, and how many locks are there in the first round of the draft? Matt and I will try to go through it and find which players are guaranteed to go in round one. The list might be smaller than you think on today's NFL Six Pack.
This is Locked On's NFL Six Pack. 6 bold takes from 2 guys who just flat out know football. NFL experts Matt Williamson and Brian Peacock bring pure NFL talk. Great takes, no fluff, just honest football talk. Crack one open. It's NFL Six Pack on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the NFL Six Pack. Brian Peacock and Matt Williamson. Thanks everybody for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. And thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Please consider subscribing. Hit that subscribe button, the thumbs up, the notification bell on YouTube so you don't miss an episode. And of course, you can find us everywhere you listen to your audio podcasts. And today's episode of NFL Six Pack is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets. If your first bet wins, just head to FanDuel.com to get started. Okay. It's going to be a mock draft Monday, but I think this is a more interesting conversation, Matt, rather than trying to pick every team perfectly, and we'll have another opportunity to mock draft this thing before the draft gets going here in under 2 weeks now, about 10 days away from the first round getting started of the 2026 NFL draft finally. Instead of doing a mock draft, I want to do an exercise that is more difficult than it sounds at first, which is trying to pick as many first-round players without getting any wrong. So that number, you could get all 32, right, which is unlikely to happen. Can you pick 25? Can you do 20? You're doing fantastic if you can get 20 without getting one wrong, sort of like a first-round eliminator. And we'll kind of keep track of this and see how close we are at the end, and we'll see even what that number is and where we quit, Matt, when we are not confident anymore that one of these prospects could not go potentially in round one. And I think this year could be as fascinating as we've seen recently. But before we get to that, we got to figure out if a top 10 guy is going to go in the top 10 with some new news about Miami edge rusher Reuben Bain. And Ollie Connolly of the Read Optional kind of broke some news here that is new to a lot of us and maybe not new to NFL teams. But here's the report. Ruben Bane was cited for careless driving after a March 2024 crash in Miami that left a passenger in a coma. That passenger, a 22-year-old student, died 3 months later. NFL teams are aware and investigating per sources. The incident had not been previously reported. Bane was cited for careless driving, and according to one league source, it could be a Laremy Tunsil all over again, according to that source. Now, the careless driving charge against Bain was dismissed 2 weeks before the death of the passenger. Betts is the last name of that passenger that died in this. And so the careless driving charge was one of 2 citations. Apparently, Bain received a second citation for careless driving in 2025 after this had happened, which is maybe the bigger red flag in all of this potentially.
Yeah.
So I don't know what exactly to do with this news. And, insiders popped up left and right. They're like, oh, we knew about this. Teams have known about this for a very long time, which, to derail the conversation, frustrates me with the insiders because the agents, they're in the agent's pockets, and the agent doesn't want that out there. So the insiders who are supposed to give us, information like this, they're holding that information back. And then once someone reports it, they're like, oh yeah, everybody already knew about this and we knew about this. And it's like, okay, that's pretty big information because there's a lot of information about other prospects that have hurt them throughout the process. So that being said, teams know about this. This isn't new information, even though it might be new to some folks like myself. And I don't know if you had heard any whispers about this, but there was no, especially the way he played. It felt like Reuben Bain was pretty squeaky clean as far as like, oh man, people are going to love this guy the way he plays. And so now there's some off-field stuff. And concerning that there's multiple, like he was cited for careless driving and someone died. And then he gets cited again. within the next year for
Yeah.
careless driving. Again, that's the big red flag that teams have to vet with this guy. Is there something that's going to be, a decision-making problem with a player you draft potentially as high as Reuben Bain could go?
All right. So obviously it's a terrible story. Someone was injured and died. I mean, that's the bottom line. I'm not making any light of that whatsoever or brushing it off. Obviously that's terrible. Now I will say I was fortunate for only for 1 year to be in a war room, and the level of background checks that are done on all these players, but especially the first rounders and the big money guys, is unbelievably extensive. I mean, it's not like you or me getting a job at some big company and getting a background check. I mean, like the Browns had, you can see it on my Twitter page. There's a picture of me and President Bush. Well, the first president, his daddy, we hired someone that used to run alongside his car as a Secret Service agent, background check all of our guys we wanted him to background check. Braylon Edwards was our pick. I'm sure that they did extensive research. And they didn't even tell all of us in the war room all the stuff, but there were a lot of stories that never, ever got out about all these dudes that I heard, let alone the owner of the team, the president, the decision makers, the head coach, et cetera. Like we had a joke. I mean, we were interested in a fullback that year, and all the draftable fullbacks had some concern with alcohol, we would say, and we made a joke like, does ramming your head into linebackers make you want to drink, or is it the other way around?
Right. Yeah.
Or do you have to be an alcoholic to ram your head into linebackers? They were,
That's a great point. Yeah.
Right.
You want it's a really hard thing because you want someone to be a choir boy until they cross the white lines, and then you want them to be an absolute maniac.
Right.
And that's just not how human beings are generally wired.
Maybe everything about Bain is aggressive. This is a careless driving cause. Now, it doesn't sound like alcohol was involved, or at least he was never convicted of anything with substance driving under the influence. Maybe this does everything 200 miles an hour. And I'm not trying to make a joke about it, but I don't know anyone that's got a careless driving arrest, and he has two.
Right. And then that starts back up. So if you're breaking ties, maybe teams aren't that worried about this, and then they're breaking ties, but now you have the arm length thing. And so you have like 0 percentile arm length, which some teams might consider a deal breaker, and maybe he's not on their draft boards. And now you have a couple other teams like, okay, well, now we're going to take him off our draft board for the first round. And does Reuben Bain start to slide now? And on top of that, does Reuben Bain potentially slide out of the first round, which is the next exercise we're going to do here, is trying to figure out how many first round locks we think there are right now on the 13th of April.
Give me 1 second. I want to say one thing about, frankly, I think Ollie Connolly, who you mentioned, who broke this story, is the most underrated analyst in this whole space. And I think he's tremendous. And I urge everyone to check it out because he's not super involved on social media. He doesn't self-promote very well or very much. He just doesn't care, I guess. I don't know him. But his co-host on his podcast is John Ledyard, who I do know pretty well and is a locked-on background. Yeah, exactly. And they do great work. And I was listening to their podcast recently, and I found it funny that it was Ollie that said this, but he said, because he's very dialed in with the league. I think he was a linebackers coach in the league at some point or something along those lines. He's from overseas. He's a English fellow, a British fellow. But he said, it's not an accident, folks, that all of a sudden we have the shortest arm lengths in defensive end history and the smallest hand size in offensive lineman history. They're measuring stuff different now, or they're not good at it. Like, don't think all of a sudden just a bunch of short arm guys showed up,
Right. Yeah. So every team's going to have their own measurements of these guys. And again, if you're going to make that big of a difference about a half an inch or an inch, then you better get the measurements right. And Cassius Howell's a good one. Cassius Howell was like, nobody's ever been drafted with, because his arms measured shorter than Bain's.
Even shorter, right?
It's like no one's ever been drafted with arms that short. And then he got retested, and it was 31 inches instead of 30 and an eighth or whatever. And so it was like, okay, well, that's short, but not as short. There have been people drafted with arms that length. So, the pro day measurement is probably what they'll go by, or teams are going to have their own, if they're really interested, they'll get their own measurement. But
But Ollie said something like, do you think it's really a coincidence that the only 2 edge players getting first-round buzz with the shortest arms in history happen to be in the same year?
Right. Yes. Clearly, with arm lengths, they got the measurements wrong.
Yeah.
Screwed up. And so the whole process is just dumb as far as that's concerned.
And people make as big a deal out of it, but all the offensive tackles have small hands all of a sudden, too. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Max Honachor, a great example. Senior Bowl, 34.5-inch arms, which is huge and like, okay, checks that box.
Yeah, great.
Resoundingly over 34 inches. Awesome. Combine, 33 and 7/8. So now you're just under 34, which is fine. And it doesn't drop below a threshold.
Flag, but right.
You're not really. And then he went to the pro day, and I think it was a third different number that was neither one of the first 2 numbers.
What are we doing here? You're right.
Yeah. Anyway, Reuben Bain. No idea. Another prospect where tape is good. You thought it was a clean evaluation. Arms are a little short. Does that matter for you? Yes or no? And then now there's off-field concerns. And it's not just this one incident where it's like, you screwed up, man. People screw up. I screwed up when I was 21 years old. But then there's another incident, and so does he start to fall? I don't think he falls out of the first round. I think he'll be on our list, but let's go through this. Which prospects are we certain are going to go in the first round without getting one wrong? So we got to come up with a list of guys that we would turn in and say, we think these players will all go, are locked in to round 1 of the NFL draft. And maybe the list should be only 2 players long. I don't know. Let's go through that process. Matt, next. This episode of NFL Six Pack is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax time. But for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide, so you can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert and get your documents uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment today. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Indeed. You ever encountered a workplace that's a little bit in chaos with deadlines stacking up, inboxes overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is sitting open? Well, when the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed, Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And you can spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. In the minute that I've been talking to you, in fact, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. And listeners of this show get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. So just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this show. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Okay. This, you know what? It might only be a 6-pack of players. The more I think about it, the less confident I start to get in prospects and how many players we think are going to go in the first round of the NFL draft. And I did a contest a few years ago, which makes me think of this every year because it's always a much smaller number than you think.
Oh, yeah.
I think I put 25 names on there, and I did get like 1 or 2 wrong. And essentially, if you can pick 20 names that all go in the first round before the draft, that's an amazing number. It's a high number. You're doing really good. So I wonder if we can.
And I think this year's harder than most.
And it might be harder than most because I think, from 15 to 45 could be like, you take the Seahawks, for example. I've seen the same player, Jadarian Price, projected to the Seahawks at pick 32 and 64 around later. And they're both just as profitable, I think. Jadarian Price is not going to make our list. We might have one running back make the list. Can we put Jeremiah Love on our list? I think he's locked.
So how do you want to do it? Are we building a list until we fail? Like Mendoza's our first pick.
Well, what I want to do first is stop when we think we're done. So,
Okay.
like we would turn this in and say we are confident in a survivor pool that every player here is going to go in the first round, and then we'll maybe push a little bit farther to see where we find the first one that doesn't end up getting there. If we're following this throughout the first round of the draft.
Love's a yes.
Then. Yeah, love's a yes. Fernando Mendoza is
that's your first pick if we were to draft them.
So, so we got a couple names on the list that you feel really good about that we don't have to have long conversations about. Mendoza, Love, Arvell Reese, we're feeling pretty good there. I'm going to bring up Brugler's Beast to top 100 and just kind of go.
Okay, yeah, that's a good pull.
Those are his top 3 players. In fact, he's got Arvell Reese 1, Love 2, Mendoza 3 on his list.
Okay, no arguments.
Yeah, we're going to lock those guys in. Sonny Styles?
No argument.
Yes, Sonny Styles is going to go on the list. Caleb Downs?
No argument, but could fall further than you think. I just don't think he falls to 33.
Not a high value position, right? Safety,
right?
Knee was flagged at the combine. This is the type of player that ruins everybody's list if you're doing a survivor, right? And we're gonna have him as our 5th guy here potentially on our list, and so that's why it starts to get very difficult. All it takes is one Bain, one Caleb Downs, and all of a sudden, oh man, this guy fell because that's like, oh yeah, guess what? And like the Bain thing, we might have not have, and if it wasn't for Ollie Connolly, we might not have got this report before the draft.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, like, why did Bain fall the first round? I was like, oh yeah, he has this thing in his background. Like, oh my God, that would have been great information 2 weeks ago, right? And so Downs, it might be a situation where, why is he on the board? First round ended. You see the ticker, Milk Hyper's talking. It's like best available, Caleb Downs, and it just forever. Like, what happens? Like, oh, the medical, they flagged his knee. He's got some chronic knee thing. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that would have been helpful if that was reported before the draft. So that's why it starts to get so difficult, even with the player evaluations, if you have those right. But I think Downs has to go on the list, right?
Yeah, I don't think either one of us think he'll fall out of the first round, but I do think he could fall. And I'm glad you stopped there, though, because I want to take a step further.
Okay.
He might have a knee. He definitely plays a non-premium position. He didn't work out. We have no times on him.
He's not your classic, he's not Derwin James. He's not 6'2".
And I would say he's not huge.
Runs 4.4. Like, we don't have any of that information. There's a million reasons Downs could be that guy that busts everybody's brackets here.
He's got like 4 potential flags. I don't think that keeps him out of round 1, though. But
everyone loves him. Some people have him as the best player in the draft. Love his instincts. So someone's going to take him, but shouldn't be shocking if he falls out of the top 10 even.
Exactly. I mean, if we're talking about who could fall, I think he screams, edges and tackles start going and safeties don't. Like, oh, I've seen this before.
Ruben Bane?
I think he's in.
Yeah, we got to put him on the list.
Yeah.
The first time I heard that report, I didn't think it was going to be something that would hurt his draft stock too much. And then the more I started thinking about it, and then I saw that there was a second incident that's the same as the first incident after somebody died. And then the arm length thing, it's like, yeah, there's enough tiebreakers that he could potentially, it could be a tumble down the field.
Is he just a really aggressive driver, or is he a bad driver, or is he a criminal driver?
I only feel 100% confident about 4 of these, even though the process is supposed to be, you have to really believe all these guys are going to go in the first round. Like Downs and Bain, those are the types that would fall, and potentially, I don't think they're going to fall out around 1, but
I don't think there's enough competition for them to fall out of round 1.
This might be the draft that they're safer than others.
Yeah, exactly. Like I could see Bain being edge 7 some years because of the flags, where this year the lowest he could fall is maybe edge 4.
Yeah, edge. Yeah, and probably still edge 3. Who knows?
Yeah.
Mansour Delane.
I think he's in.
Yeah, he's in.
Yeah.
That's 7. We've got David Bailey. He's in, right?
I don't love him, but I think there's no chance he falls. I think he's got a good chance to go number 2.
I think he's a little bit more scheme dependent.
Yeah.
Depends on the team and who's making the pick on him. He could go 2. He could slide a little bit, but he's going to go in the first round. He's just too explosive an athlete, pass rusher that everybody needs. Spencer Fano feels like one of the few safe guys in this class, even though he might not be an offensive tackle on everybody's board.
That's his problem, is maybe 20 teams think he can't play tackle and is only an interior lineman. And how many interior linemen go every year? 1, maybe?
Yeah,
give or
only
take.
a couple. If you're purely an interior offensive lineman.
Yeah. I think he's in, though. I mean, he would make my list.
Yeah, he's going to make our list as well. That gives us 9. Carnell Tate. In.
Yes.
Yeah. Francis Mauinoa, another tackle, but is he a guard?
I think he's in, but there are questions.
Yeah. Mauinoa is on the list. I think that's where I think Ioane.
I think Ioane is definitely in.
He's number 12. He's right after Mauinoa here on Dane Brugler's top 100. And so that's 12. Let's stop right there for now. And then I think we're gonna have more difficult conversations from here on out.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of look and see who I feel next best about.
That's 12. And
that's a low number.
It's a pretty low number, and I think things get very dicey after 12. And we already have 3 guards on our list and a safety.
Right. Yeah.
The shortest arms ever drafted in the first round. So that's why
it does get hairy really quick.
I want to see those lists. Hit us up in the YouTube comments and drop how many players you would guarantee and see how many you can go. Can you pick 20 guaranteed first rounders?
I mean, a bunch of people write us in, and then on Monday after the draft, like, oh, I got 19 right.
Yeah, I got 19 right. Yeah, which player breaks your busts your bracket? Next, can we get to 20 players that we are confident are locks for the first round of the 2026 NFL draft? Seems simple. It's not. Next. Today's episode of NFL Six Pack is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs, they are here. The play-ins are about to happen, and where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. And here's what I like about it. You can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. The app makes it easy to follow all the action, player stats, trends, matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, that extra insight really matters when you're looking at stars, role players, and key moments to try to put your ideas together. And it just makes the entire playoff experience more engaging from start to finish. And, oh, yeah, you can bet on those NFL draft props as well, which is some of my favorite things to do at FanDuel all season long. And you can bet on your favorite team to win the Super Bowl next year. All you got to do is head to FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. We got 12 names, Matt. Mendoza, Love, Reese, Styles, Downs, Bain, Delane, Bailey, Fano, Tate, Mauinoa, and Ioane.
Okay.
Are we done?
Sort of. This is going to sound really morbid, and it's the best example I could come up with.
Okay.
Are you willing to play? Who's the next guy you're willing to play Russian roulette with, and say, like, I like my chances? I know there's a bullet in this chamber, but I still think there's 100 chambers. Mine's Freeling.
Okay. I was gonna go. I've got 2 names.
Okay, I have 4, and then I got 2 in the next category.
So the next player on Brugler's big board would be Makai Lemon, but again, teams view him as a slot. He's not the biggest. He's not the fastest. The tape is awesome. You start to have the Downs conversation, but there's no knee with him. So I think Lemon would make the list, but I would put Kenyon Sadiq and Monroe Freeling on there as more confident even than Makai Lemon. And then maybe Makai Lemon would go next.
So I think there's 2 conversations. Like, if you asked me, do you think Makai Lemon will go in the first round? Yes or no? I would say yes.
I think he's going to go on our list. Yes.
But that's a little different than would I play Russian roulette with my life on the line that he will or not. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? Is this list because I might have stopped at 4.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have 4 names that I'm really willing to spin the chamber.
Yeah.
Freeling, Sadiq, McCoy, and Thiemann.
And not Lemon.
He's in the next category.
So I would swap Lemon for McCoy on your list.
I mean, the knee could be terrible.
The knee, yeah, it's all because of the knee. Torn ACL. Just because
he worked out one day does not mean the knee is great.
Yeah, and he did work out one time, but like that's I'm going to first round pick. And so I think McCoy's going to end up going on our list, but he would be very much the type of player we're talking about. Like, wait, hold on a second, man. If we're trying to not get one wrong, that could go in the other direction, which is why I put Lemon on first, just because there's not that screaming red flag. And he's got tape from this last season, which McCoy does not. You got to go back to 2024 to even start talking about him as a prospect.
Huge red flag.
Yeah.
I mean, if he hadn't worked out, I definitely would not have put him in this group. But
yeah.
And I will say some of the DJ and McShays and quote insiders that talk to people in the league seem to think he's gaining steam and could even be like the Chiefs pick a 10 or whatever, you know.
If you look at his 24 tape, you might say, well, we like him better than Delane anyway. So the doctors give us a thumbs up, then we're good. We can draft him as high as we want.
Yeah. Freeling, I'm pretty confident with. I'm spinning the chamber on him.
He's the number one left tackle, I think. As raw as he might be. And but you watch you watch the final version of what he was, who developed on the fly during the college football season, and you think, okay, cool, and he's not done. And so, I think Freeling goes on the list. Again, Dylan Denman, I think he's going on the list, but man, he's a safety, and we're talking about a guy who's already at mid first round is his ceiling.
Yeah, I thought for sure I'd get some blowback on Thiemann as a no-brainer, gonna bet your life on it.
He just has such a complete. Well, look, here's a good example is. A few years ago, what was it, the 2024 draft? I think most people, if they were doing this, their bracket got busted on Cooper DeJean.
Oh, yeah. I definitely would have had him.
And I think Cooper DeJean's grades are at least on par with where we're at with Thinman right now.
Stronger draft class, though. More competition, I would say.
There was more competition that year, yes.
Like, I can't even picture a world where, like, the Bills would pass on Thiemann. You know what I mean? Like some of these teams that we never even see a mock to. Yeah. Like if he gets to those surefire playoff teams.
So I think for me, 15 is where I really, really, really slow down. And I would not have put McCoy on it, but I would have had Lemon on it, I think.
Okay.
I think we can keep going to 20, but we've got to be smart about our 20.
Yeah.
I
got another name that I think you're going to fight me on.
Okay, so Phenom is on our list, and we're going to put McCoy on our list, right?
So since we went to break, my favorite four are Freeling, Sadiq, McCoy, Thiemann.
Okay.
Then I would go Lemon.
Yeah.
And here's the one you're going to go, ooh, Blake Miller. He has nothing wrong with him.
Yeah, I like the argument that he's pretty clean and he's going to go in the first round and probably is one of those that's the opposite of Downs and Bain, where it's like you might be surprised how high he goes versus surprised how a player that could fall a little bit.
He's missed one practice in his life, and it was like the day after he broke a bone or had like surgery or something.
Yeah.
He's durable. He's a true tackle. Everyone needs one.
Right. Yeah. If he played left tackle, probably be a little bit more helpful.
Yep. But it's hard to find red flags on him.
Yeah.
That I know of.
I'm okay with Miller. Yeah.
Okay. Then I don't know.
So I like Max Honichor better.
Oh, I do too, but
Miller much cleaner and probably more likely to go because Max Honichor could go. He could shock people how high he goes. He could go top 10, right? Or he could go
Steelers
top
fans
10.
are so sick of me talking about Max. I adore him. I would run to the podium at 21. I fear he's going to go 12. But maybe the league just says, well, wait, and he doesn't help us right now, you know?
So Blake Miller is one of those dark horse names where you throw that in there and other people might have a Jordan Tyson, which I would not make my list.
I would not have him on my list.
Because of the injuries. And by the way, he is going to work out, I think, the Friday before the draft, like the last prospect possible to work out. But he's still not going to run 40. I think he's just going to do position.
Oh, really?
That's the way I understand it.
So none of these names.
No way Tyson goes on the list.
No way is Tyson on the list.
Caden Proctor.
I don't think I could put Proctor on the list. I mean, he's in this next group. If I'm forced to, if they're making me play Russian roulette, he would maybe be my pick.
Keldrick Falk.
How about Falk or Lomu?
Lomu, I can't put on there.
I don't think Falk's a very good player.
Too raw. I think Falk is the type of player that always goes in the first round, and especially in a draft like this. And just,
I mean, I bet he would. Again, if you said, Matt, yes or no, he's going to be a first-round pick, I would say yes.
Yes.
But betting the mortgage on it?
Right.
I don't love it.
So we might be done then at 18. If we put Miller
Cooper,
on. What's that?
Cooper.
I feel good about it.
Yeah.
But Cooper, Concepcion,
I think receivers could fall.
Denzel Boston are on a same category. I feel more confident in Cooper than the other two because he has a more complete profile. Boston didn't run his 40. Concepcion didn't, but you're not worried about his speed, but he had that little knee scope and doesn't have the biggest catch radius. Cooper got over the 6 foot 200 boundary, right? So Cooper checks more.
I think he's cleaner. Yeah.
Yeah. I would almost be okay with putting Cooper on the list, and he might be the last one.
Lomu's a no for you?
He's a no for me, even though
I don't love his
game.
game.
Go in the first round. There's I think Lomu actually is going to end up being underrated as a prospect. He's a redshirt sophomore, has everything you're looking for, was the left tackle. He's so composed. He's good at picking up stunts. I think he's so advanced in some things that he shouldn't be advanced in. I think he needs to get stronger, play a little nastier. And I think the league, as crazy as this sounds with offensive linemen, I think the league overrates like offensive linemen who jump on the guy at the end of the play. He's so nasty. And it's like, dude, he's not going to do that in the NFL. Like, he fell on top of a guy at Ball State that was, and got a pancake. And these people get off of it. Oh my God, look at it, the physicality. And that's how you end up overdrafting someone like Trevor Penning. Give me the guy you can't teach his feet and someone who can stay in front of a defensive lineman. And so in that regard, I think Lomu's a guy. He goes back to school, gets 5-10 pounds stronger, and all of a sudden we'd be talking about him. I think Caleb Lomu should have stayed in school, to be honest with you. I think he could have been a top 15 prospect next year. Just clean up a couple of things, play put a little bit more nastiness and a little bit more core strength on tape, and you're done because there's nothing else to worry about with him.
You're jumping on the Powell thing, just maybe scream. Penning's a perfect example, but Jennings Dunker has crazy hair and it's red, so he's tough and he's going to set the tone for my entire team.
And tries to throw haymakers and is like, well, his feet are cement. So let's talk about that first before we worry about
pancaking anyone against the Bears in week 12 if he can't get there.
Yeah, you got to pancake a guy. You got to block a guy before you
right.
Not to kill.
You can't even find a linebacker or safety because you're too slow. I'm not killing him either, but
yeah.
He's got pretty hair, so he's
Dunker not on our list for sure. Right?
No, okay. I think that's it. Mesidor is definitely not on my list.
No Mesidor.
Proctor's pretty close.
Did we put Cooper on?
I think.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. Let's put Cooper on. That gets us to 19.
I feel like if we get burned, though, Cooper's going to burn us.
It could.
I think I'd throw Proctor on if we had to get to 20.
If you had to get to 20, Proctor's our 20th. So Chris Johnson's got a lot of helium right now. He's actually 24 on Brugler's top 100. Emmanuel McNeil Warren.
Can't do it.
No. Proctor, I think, wins that. Definitely not Avion Terrell.
No.
Blake Miller is the interesting one that you put on there that I think is a good call. But, man,
I don't think he's a great player. I just think he's super clean at a great position.
Yeah. TJ Parker is somewhat similar to that, I think. I might put TJ Parker on instead of
Proctor.
I think Proctor has to be 20 for us.
Yeah.
There it is. Okay.
Cool.
That's our list. And that was hard to get to. I feel better about 15 than I do 20. And I really only feel good about 4, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So here's our list.
So we did do 20, right?
We got 20. Here's our list of 20. So you knocks us out, if anybody. Mendoza, Love, Reese, Styles, Downs, Bain, Delane, Bailey, Fano, Haight, Mawanoa, Ioane, Lemon, Sadiq, Freeling, Thiemann, McCoy, Miller, Cooper, Proctor.
So true or false, if I said you had to bet next paycheck that you got it right or wrong, would you do it?
No.
Do you think we're going to miss one? We'll get like 19.
McCoy's the big one for me just because we didn't like the knee reports, and that's really easy.
Cooper scares me a little just because someone might prefer other receivers.
Yeah, and then teams might go, all those linemen might go, and then all of a sudden the receivers, it's like the 2024 draft again, going back to that. One of the receivers are going to go. Someone takes Pearsall higher than you thought, and then all of a sudden, the guy that you thought you had ranked higher ends up going at the top of round 2 instead.
Yeah. And linemen are going to screw us up. I mean, like all of a sudden, like we have 20 names there, but if Parker goes, the Honachor goes, Lomu goes, all these like edges and linemen, it's like, how did Cooper not get in? Well,
right. And all of a sudden, Malachi Lawrence goes in Zion Young.
Yeah.
Cassius Howell's an interesting one for me. Again, if not
Yeah.
for arm length, then he would for sure be on this list over a lot of guys, I think. But the arm length thing, and I think he's maybe a better fit for the 3-4 teams than the 4-3 teams. So he's someone that's tough to put on this list.
There's a lot of guys that could screw up our list that we didn't put on the list, but
because they push somebody else off.
Yeah.
No way you can put Ty Simpson on this list, but if he goes in the first round, that knocks another player off.
Right. All of a sudden, you get to 32 pretty quick.
Yes. Yeah. I think TJ Parker might be the next name I put on there, but I can't put him on this.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Because Parker is kind of the defensive line version of Miller. It's odd that they go to the same school where, production is there. They meet the height, weight, speed standards. And when you get to the end of the first round,
there's teams that need them.
Yeah. High value positions. Okay.
That's
Fun exercise. Absolutely. Let's see your list. Hit us up at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL in the YouTube comments. Get your questions or topics in for this week's mailbag, and back tomorrow right here on the NFL Six Pack.